Hi guys, LateCom here, and in today's video, we're going to be revisiting one of the good old endgamers flux farming methods, which is going to be none other than stellar gear farming. Now, this method has existed for ages, evolving numerous times since the very beginning, with its rise in popularity during the Shadow Tower era back in the pre-Delve days, which people would kill world bosses with around 6,000 magic fine on average, making something like 200,000 flux an hour. But this would then evolve once the Delve update hit in mid-2020, as Gamigo introduced a 50% base bonus to magic fine, allowing players to essentially double their magic fine when this additional bonus was paired with the Patron Pass. As we all know, the Delve update 2 ended the infamous era of Shadow Tower botting, as the flaws were removed, meaning that scripting flaws weekly would no longer be possible, forcing botters to turn into other shady methods of flux generation, a topic that I may just reserve for another interesting video in the future. Anyways, the Delve update made flux farming so much more accessible to endgame players, as players phased into farming stellar gears off the Geode topside with their newly found magic fine buff. Naturally, as the accessibility of flux farming via stellars increased, this led to a larger influx, pun intended, of flux into the economy, bringing further rise to flux inflation as the creation of flux was easier now than ever before. Now, I recall that we've already once discussed about inflation in one of our past videos, so I won't really address this in detail in this video. Feel free to check the links in the description below for more context, as I believe all of what I said in that video still proves relevant in today's time. Now, some of you might be wondering, why am I even talking about inflation when we're dealing with stellar flux farming? Well, because it simply plays an indispensable role in determining how worth it stellar flux farming truly is. If you haven't caught on, farming stellar gears and looting them leads to the direct creation of flux in the game. The more worthless flux becomes, the more inefficient stellar farming ends up becoming. Now, I won't be making a video if there is truly no noteworthy changes to stellar farming as a whole. It is 2023 as of this video, and 2020 is inevitably 3 years in the past. Damn, I'm starting to feel kinda old now, man. But either way, the gradual inflation in Trove over the past 3 years has led us to the creation of this video as we assess and analyze the effects of inflation on flux farming by looting stellars. Firstly, let's take a look at what can be generated while stellar farming in the Geode topside. Of course, flux is a given, but other than flux, we have Forged Souls, Pearls of Wisdom, and Eyes of Cubethlu that we get as a byproduct of looting gears in and above Shadow level. Other items include adventure boxes obtained from dungeon farming, provided that your primary club has the Horde of Prosperity fixture active, as well as your repeatable tome. Now that we have all of this listed, it's time for me to pull up some numbers to compare the ratios from the past and the present. From one of my old videos from 2020, I used the Ice Sage and farmed a total of 246,525 pure flux in the span of 30 minutes. Here is a list of the additional items obtained alongside the flux during the farm, and attached is the prices of the items as of October 2020. To summarize, the earnings from items amounted to around 45,000 flux, which made up a total proportion of 15.6% of the combined earnings of the pure flux and items when valuated at market value. The numbers seem pretty normal, with nothing being truly out of the ordinary here. These were average numbers pulled back then. I'll link the video down in the description below so that you may have a look if you're interested. With that out of the way, let's have a look at the results of 30 minutes of stellar farming in 2023 with a sample that I just took hours before posting this video. For a little bit of context, I was using Bard in Uber topside with 13,000 magic fine. I amassed a total of 339,070 raw flux, which is honestly not too shabby for someone who hasn't farmed stellars for over a year now. However, what shocked me was the value that I got from the items besides the raw flux. On your screen right now is a list of the items obtained, sold at the current market price. That's right, coming in at a total of 416,361 flux and making up a proportion of 55.11% of the total earnings. We have the list of items sold from the farm itself. Yeah, we call this farming method the Stellar Gear Flux Farming method, but it turns out, currently, majority of the earnings are from the other items instead of the raw flux obtained. I guess it's finally time for us to rename this method into the Pearl and Forged Fragments and Forged Souls topside farm, just because they earn way more than the pure flux farm itself. Either way, there is a slight possibility that the rates for Forged Souls and Pearls could still be affected by the Snowfest event a month ago, though I really doubt that its effect will last up till now. From my brief inspection of the market rates over the past few weeks, it's safe to say that the values were relatively stable, with Pearls of Wisdom actively selling for around 1,750 flux apiece quite quickly. Nevertheless, proportions of earnings aside, it seems that stellar farming for 30 minutes has gotten me a rate of approximately 1.5 million flux per hour, keeping in mind that only 45% of that 1.5 million obtained is in pure flux itself. Assuming ideally everything goes as planned, a rate of 1.5 million flux per hour isn't really all that bad, but in today's standard, that's barely the value of half of a credit pouch of the marketplace. I know, this is absolutely ridiculous. It is finally a time where we find that farming 1.5 million flux in an hour is just becoming very ineffective for flux farming. But that is pretty much the facts as of right now. I like to point out that since the majority of the earnings now derive from selling the additional materials obtained, there is a significantly higher risk of not being able to achieve the projected rate of 1.5 million flux per hour at all. All in all, this marks the inevitable downfall of what once was a dominant aspect of the flux farming genre in the game. It's sad to see one of the OG flux farming methods become irrelevant in today's economy, but that just means that there are many other avenues that we can capitalize on to get flux efficiently. Though that is so, I'll leave it all for another video in the near future. Thank you guys so much for tuning in all the way until the end of the video. I really appreciate each and every one of your support. I'll see you guys sometime soon, and as usual, peace out.